start looking at some questions. Okay, Ms. Riley is asking, how many landowners are there between Montauk Highway and the park?
I mean, who wanted to develop the land? Is it just that one man, or are there a bunch of them?
He has aggregated almost all of it, but and then there's a fire district is in the middle, and then I'd say there's probably less than 10 other like little pieces, which the town owns several of them, so.
I think it's like 6 or 8.
6 or 8, yeah.
So he would do the proposal.
He would do he's like kind of aggregated the whole thing to do it as a comprehensive plan, which is a dream come true for us, because when we first were rezoning Gabreski Airport, we were doing it as though somebody had to do these little lots and how's this gonna work, and it was so complicated. And then the county said, nope, we're just gonna get one developer, we're gonna lease the whole thing to one guy, and it was like, oh, thank God. And then the Rucklers did the whole, like industrial park, and that was so much easier than like this guy having to deal with all this multitude of people. So he's part of that, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Mr. Trafford asks, is there anything that this organization can do to speed up the development process to get groundbreaking started? He's ready to go. Where's your shovel?
Come support the code, the mixed use, come support the code, so that we can just get that enacted, he can get in the door and we can get it going.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing, is that we have to come out and be a voice for pushing this through, making it happen.
Thoughtfully, of course.
Oh, absolutely.
Thinking it through.
Absolutely, we have to review everything, decide whether it's something that we want, decide whether it's something that we can accept, and then advocate for what we want, and not be speed bumped. Will the new, Mr. Jocelyn's asking, these are the gentlemen. Will the new district provide adequate public parking aside from store owners and renters?
I think it has to. That's one of those code parameters. You've got to have public, and that's a public benefit. You've got to create parking. We've got to have public parking. And we've been talking about that for years, like buying more property just to create more public lots even. But I think the new development has to create public parking. Otherwise, you can't go there, and that would be a disaster.
Okay, a ghost asked, would the developer cover any portion of installation of sewers and treatment? That's a good question.
That's a great question.
He was originally gonna cover the cost of all of it when it was in his location, right?
We never got that far.
Cause that's what I was told.
He had he wanted to create this whole like giant agreement where he would give us the property, but we said, well, we want it to be that everyone can use that sewer, it can't just be for you, so we never really got that far. We would say the developer, we don't know, but I think what happens is that he's again a user in the district, and they're going to have to pay user fees and connection fees, and that all remains to be seen, but we're gonna have to work it out.
Okay, Ms. Coulton? She has a comment. What we need in Hampton Bays, a rec center for kids and teens, an arcade, a brewery with games. I like that one, yes. Affordable breakfast and lunch place like Toast in Patchogue, ice cream shop.
Can I say something to that? So do you know that Macy's is leaving, right? So Macy's is gonna be closing by 2025. So we said, make that into some kind of cool thing, like arcade, Dave and Bus or whatever, like that should be something. And something cool, and my friend that I have grown up with since second grade actually owns Toast, and I asked him, like, hey, can you build Toast in Hampton Bays? He's like, build it and I'll be there. So, yes. I think we can get him. That's bad.
Okay, Ms. Blatt is asking, can we include development like Amagansett Square, stores in alleyways like in Sag Harbor, East Hampton and Southampton? This could take advantage of the deep lots.
I love that.
That's what the plan was, I think.
Well, he had that kind of little structure. Yeah, but I think that's great.
Yeah, the idea is to create texture, I would call it. And so that there's interesting things to see and places to go. And I think also wider sidewalks, so there could be sidewalk dining.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna destroy your name.
Still sure.
Bruce Dosher. A friend from West Hampton recently told me Hampton Bays needs to grow up and incorporate. Will that give us the political strength to achieve our goal to make this a better place? Do you have any opinion on that?
I think that there's been tries before, and even most recently East Quad tried to incorporate as a village, but it's very expensive, and what ends up happening is that you have to contract back to the town for all your services, and it ends up costing the taxpayer even more. But we've been here as your advocates in the town. I've never seen the town spend so much money on anywhere, believe it or not, to base. I mean, they've put a significant amount of money down to try to get, I don't know that a village is going to be any better than what you have right now. And we want you to get what you want, so maybe get what you want first and then to come to the village. That's
Is
the
it
way to go
town
about
money
it.
or CPF though, just out of curiosity, is it the town money or CPF?
Both.
There seems to be a big discrepancy between CPF funds and town funds, right? One comes from one place, one comes from the other.
Well, I mean, there's so much property that's been bought with CPF.
Right.
And then there's a lot of just general fund money.
Mhm.
All the money that has gone into all the studies and all the things,
Right,
significant amount.
right.
Okay, Ms. Dosher asked, is there, and then you crossed it out, but I'm still gonna,
She answered my question.
well, I'd like to say it again. Is there a website to see the conceptual plan? Right now, at Mr. Kyola's plan, no.
He
Um,
had like a
He had
kind
post,
of an like an impressionist type of thing, and we had it on our website that you can look at. But I wouldn't, it's what he was wanting to do, but he has no path forward without us doing some kind of code that he can come forward and propose it. So that's what we're lacking. That's what we need. That's what we're doing right now, and not just for him. We're just saying we're just doing this generally, and then he can apply if he wants.
okay. Geraldine Spinella asks, since John and Ms. Burgess are both zoning board members with a definite path to follow, how will you also represent Hampton Bays residents who are against something you are asked to pass? It's a conflict. Do you recuse yourself? Good question. This was raised in the newspaper recently, and I responded to it. You'll see my response in tomorrow's paper. And it's a fair question to ask. There's a definite code of ethics, which actually is being revised as we speak. There was a hearing on it on April 24th in the town board meeting. We are, well, first of all, there's no conflict of interest right now because there's no proposal on the table. We are advocating for what we want in our community along with what other people want in our community. Actually, we're created this organization to give people a voice. This organization is gonna advocate what you want. I'm just one person in this group, and Helen is just one person in this group. We are gonna be voting on how we move forward. In the same vein, Helen and I are one vote of now 7. We're adding 2 more board members. So there's no proposal on the table, there's no conflict there can't be a conflict of interest. My letter also is going to address Michael Daly, who's on the zoning board, who's also been an advocate for Liberty Gardens. I don't want to really talk about Liberty Gardens other than to say that we have a process by which we recuse ourselves from any application which would pose a conflict of interest. I have on at least 2 occasions had legal clients come before us. I recuse myself in those cases. Ms. Burgess is on the Housing Authority and she recuses herself from Housing Authority cases. Mr. Daly has recused himself from cases as well. And that's the way that we ensure that there are no conflicts of interest. Now, I've also heard commentary that, Well, because you're on the board, yeah, please, if you would. Because you're on the board, you, even if you recuse yourself, you affect other people in the room on the board with you. Well, we're all separate individuals with our own ideas about how to exercise our office. And another thing that we do is when we recuse ourselves, we leave the chamber. We're not allowed to stay at the dais, because that could create some kind of undue influence on other people. We don't talk to each other about the cases that we have that come before us. I don't like to I don't discuss it with others. We come together and decide, oh, we're all gonna vote one way. We don't vote in blocks. Each one is, we have our own vote, our own opinion. Sometimes we align, and sometimes we don't. And often, I have voted no on applications and they get passed. So, you know, I really don't think that there's a conflict issue in the way of people think of conflicts of interest. The Code of Ethics really deals with material advantages that people get as being government officials, and advocating for giving people a public voice in our community is not a conflict of interest, in my opinion. Yes.
In relation to that though, before you recuse yourself at a meeting, are you able to discuss the topic and say why the people in Hampton Bays might be against X that they're about to discuss and pass? Before you say, and I'm not voting, and you leave the room, do you get to say what it is the people would like to see?
Well, I think an interesting thing is there's a misperception of how the zoning board works and how the planning board works. And I think that people think that these applications come before the zoning board. They don't. So
But I think what Geraldine is saying is if this group, your Hampton Bays Alliance, is against something that's in your wheelhouse, in the ZBA realm, do you have to recuse?
I would imagine that I would. If I'm a member of this organization, and this organization takes a stance with regard to an application that would be before the zoning board, I would recuse myself. I don't think it would be proper.
But would you say why you're recusing yourself?
I don't need to. I could say it on the record. I don't need to say why I'm recusing myself.
It might make them change their mind if you say why the people are so much against something that you're being asked to discuss, like the BEST system as an example. If everybody here knew they don't want it, and you're being asked to pass it, so before you recuse yourself, do you state why you'd be against it?
But the BEST facility wouldn't come before the zoning board, and that's another interesting quirk that I discuss in my letter to the editor. Please read the letter to the editor of Southampton Press, Western Edition, tomorrow. These issues don't become before the zoning board. Zoning changes are done by the town council. Site plan applications are reviewed and voted on by the planning board. We do variances, and I didn't want to get into it in my letter, and that we have a little bit of time, but of late, there was a development of loaves and fishes in Bridgehampton, and that went through site plan review at the planning board, and it was changed into some mixed use where there was office space and workforce housing, and we have Bridgehampton Inn, and we have loaves and fishes in the front. And that was approved by, or in the planning process, in the site plan process with the planning board. It came to the zoning board. You wanna know what it came to the zoning board for? On the north side of the property, they wanted to put 5 parking spaces. And they wanted those 5 parking spaces to be, I think, 5 feet from the lot line. And the lot line, the setback was 10. And that's what came in front of the zoning board. Whether or not we allow them to put 5 parking spaces 5 feet from the lot line. We didn't have anything to do with the secret evaluation, traffic studies, whether or not they should be allowed to put in affordable housing, how much affordable housing, nothing like that. 5 feet. So these things don't come before us, and I think anybody who's going to go in the public sphere and try and say that I have a conflict of interest because the zoning board is passing developments and making developments happen has a complete, profound misunderstanding of how the process works. Okay. Let's see, I've got a few more here. We've got like 5 minutes. I'm seeing a bunch of questions that are really about like neon signs and things of that nature. I think we can answer those later. Okay, here's a question from Ms. Landis. A bit confused. If VB remains with the creation of a mixed-use floating zone category, what prevents the possibility of big box stores within the VB?
They have to buy the land and own the land to do that.
It doesn't protect it.
Right, it doesn't. It doesn't. Somebody could come in and buy everything and do that.
It is possible.
Which is why I think it's interesting, the owner likes the idea, and is in line with kind of what we want.
Exactly. I think Sarah's making a really good point that we all should hear. So make that point again.
Well, just from what I've heard from all of these meetings, he could come in and do that, but his preferred choice right now is to kind of build this idea that we're all talking about. And so it's an opportunity where we can either work with him and kind of collectively get there together where everybody's happy, or if we just keep saying no, then we might be stuck with that. We might be stuck with the bigger box store.
Right, exactly, because if we decide, or if we allow the powers that be to say, to nix Alfred Cayola's plan, we're stuck with VB zoning, which could lead us to a Costco.
Hopefully not, I hope not.
A small Costco.
But I think also it's important, one of the reasons was that we didn't wanna change zoning, like the whole plan, was because it opened the door for more like lawsuits and
Yeah, it's
litigation.
a waste of time, we
Right.
can't go back, we just have to move forward.
Right, that's what I'm saying, I think that's
Yeah.
why you didn't wanna change the zoning, because it's too much to, like,
It's
there's
too
too
much.
many Ts to cross and all
But
that
it is a
stuff.
good point that Janice makes, that we're not protected, there is an exposure there, so if he doesn't get there, then you're left exposed, so that is a good point. I can't say it's not, valid.
And I think that dovetails into the question asked by the Baltz family. Empty stores now, what takes so long? Gators, Verona Bay, Salvatore's, Diner now going to be another medical building. How long does it take for zoning approval? And I think that these two things together, what Ms. Landis is talking about and what Ms. Baltz is talking about, shows that we need to be proactive. We need to move forward. We need to come together as a community. We need to say what we want. We need to advocate. If we allow a minority opinion to be the most vocal one in the room, we're going to be in a situation that we don't want to be in. So I think now we have to kind of dig deep and come out and support organizations like this one and reach out to the town council through letters, through petitions, through speaking at board meetings in order to get our point across. You have a question.
Well, that's me.
Ms. Baltz,
Ms.
yes.
So in answer to that, this talking tonight, it's all about our input. How long have we been saying, of course, we're not getting a diner, but how did a medical building get approved when you can probably poll everybody in this room, but anybody that I know does not want another medical building where the diner is. In Hampton Bays, we have enough medical buildings. How did that get passed?
Because it's allowed in the categories of zoning, like, so like I said.
The diner's been empty for 10 years, and this is the best that the town came up with.
Well,
Well,
hold
no,
on.
the town doesn't
It's
come
the
up with
town.
that, that's the misconception
Who
here.
buys the property, because somebody owns it.
We only make sure you do it in a way that comports with the zoning code. So we are not out there, wheeling and dealing,
Okay, but you're kind of like contradicting yourself now, because sort of, unless I'm misinterpreting. So Cayola has all this property and he's gonna listen to us, or he's gonna do what he wants.
What he wants
So-
is kind of what you want, within reason.
Okay.
He probably wants more than what you want. There's a scale difference here. But you're in a unique scenario where we're not fighting with someone. We're
Right.
normally fighting people. We've been fighting people for 20 years, at least I have. Can't do this, don't do that, blah, blah, blah. It's very difficult to get somebody to do what you want. So when it comes to the diner, we wanted the diner. We tried to get Marich's diner
I
guy
know.
to do it. Nobody wanted to be the diner. That diner needs to be demolished because it's a disaster in there. They can't reuse any of the stuff. It was too expensive. They had all this problem with the rapid recovery next door, encroached, and all this litigation went on. That's why it sat there forever, because they were in a lawsuit. That is part of the reason why.
And you also, the town did try to do the land swap so that they could do the land swap. There was something proposed about a road, which probably shouldn't have happened. But if they would have just said, we're gonna do a land swap, then the town would have owned the property at the top. They could have done a welcome center, a coffee shop, a chamber of commerce, something like that.
That's what we wanted
But
to do.
because it was proposed as a road, there was a lot of uproar and it all got nixed, but had that happened, it would have swapped the property, so the medical building would be going now next to Salvatore's instead of being your welcome to Hampton Bays Swinger Piers here.
Right. And then the other thing is, if you really want a diner and you have this mixed use thing downtown in a walkable place, hopefully the diner will be there. So you'll still get one, it just won't be in the same place, hopefully. Or some other similar restaurant.
Actually, Salvatore's is a perfect place for a diner. If anybody knows,
They're coming back with a restaurant.
with another restaurant, but no, it should be a diner.
We
We saw, no, Salvatore's, which was then Morona Bay.
Right.
And so now we've had 2 Italian restaurants that failed, and so it should be a diner. That's perfect place, and what was a Friendlies. Okay, it's 8:45, thank you very much.
I just wanna say, there's a bunch of other good questions that we didn't get to, and this one had like concerns about environment and habitat loss, pesticides.
This is all stuff we're gonna address.
These are good things, like, we agree, like, I, am a planner by trade, a environmental science major, like, I absolutely believe that we can have both, right? You've got a 38-acre park, wilderness, woods, so there's gotta be a way to have it.
So, maybe what we could do with the leftover questions that are for Janice that didn't get answered.
So whatever questions haven't been answered, we're going to answer them. And we're going to the extent that you've given us your contact information, we will get back to you with that. And also, I'm gonna try and figure out how we can maybe get those questions and answers onto the website so that they'll be available to everybody. We have videotaped this. I shouldn't be saying videotape, it's a camera. And so I'm going to be creating a YouTube channel so that people who didn't get a chance to come to this meeting will be able to see it at a later date. So if you know anybody who says, what happened, I wanna see, it's gonna be not the best quality, but at least you'll get the information. I wanna thank you all for coming. This has been absolutely wonderful. And this group of people really gives me hope, because we need hope. We need to move forward and we need to break through the logjam, and I think that together we can do that. And I really encourage everybody, please come, take a membership form, donation form, join us. Reach out, info@hamptonbaysalliance.com. Tell us what you can do, what kinds of stuff you can bring to the table, because we really need to do this together. Thank you. Have a good night.